Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Wrap, brought to you by Michigan Medicine Headlines. I'm Dan Ellman with the Department of Communication. Today, we're going to learn about the importance of study coordinators and how they are pushing important clinical trials forward at Michigan Medicine. Now, before we get into that, be sure you go back and study any of the episodes of The Wrap you may have missed. You can find them on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or any other podcast hosting platform. New episodes debut weekly and can also be found on the Michigan Medicine YouTube channel and as part of the Headlines Week in Review. With that, let's bring in Nick Harris with the Clinical Trials Support Office. Nick, thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
First, can you explain the role of the Clinical Trials Support Office at Michigan Medicine?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Clinical Trial Support Office was established here at Michigan Medicine in 2016, so just a handful of years ago. And if you know, Michigan Medicine, of course, has three pillars, of kind of foundational pillars of patient care, research, and education. And this largely, of course, fits into that research pillar, but we tend to, cross over a bit into the other sections as most of them do. So U of M has a long history of strength in research, especially with bench science and bench medicine. And in this case, we thought, hey, we need to invest further into the human subject side of clinical research. So the CTSO was established, and with that focus of human subjects research. And one of those goals in establishing this was to really strengthen the workforce that implements human subjects clinical research. And that workforce is often known as clinical research coordinators.
Awesome. All right. So let's dive into that a little bit deeper because people might not be aware of clinical research coordinators and their role. Can you explain the type of work that they do and how it fits in within that research and even clinical enterprise here?
Yeah, absolutely. So a clinical research coordinator is often working at the bedside or directly with patients and participants. So this is not someone that is typically working in the lab, and that can be one of the differences in when you think about research and research in general. So there's actually competencies for the clinical research coordinators. These are published competencies that are really important. And I can tell you it's research design, scientific concepts. They need to know ethics and the safety considerations for participants, investigational products, clinical study operations, study and site management. Data management is also an important part, or informatics, leadership, professionalism, communication, and teamwork. So these are published competencies for CRCs, and the primary goal, though, for anyone in clinical research is really to advance evidence-based medicine. And we do this through safe and a rigorous process of scientific method. And it's really an exciting career here at the University of Michigan. And it's one that is new. It's newer. We didn't have this position. We didn't have these careers 20 years ago. This was often sort of something that a nurse or some other clinicians did on top of what they were already doing. So you would see at Michigan Medicine, these clinical research coordinators are working shoulder to shoulder in any particular unit across the hospital. They work directly with pharmacists and a number of other partners, both internally and externally to the University of Michigan.
So I think it's kind of fascinating, right? So not only do they have sort of a grasp on the research and that actual side of it, but you almost have to have like people management skills too, right? In order to make people feel comfortable and to get the type of information you really need. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we often show this visual of this kind of wheel and all the different spokes coming from the wheel. And we like to put the clinical research coordinator in the middle because they're working with so many different types of people and different expectations. And that includes the patients, of course, and the participants and working directly with them, but then also all of the faculty investigators and then the clinical teams directly, in each unit, and then the pharmaceutical companies and CROs and other business partners too. So it's very much so working with different people, and all of those people have a different perspective. So it's the coordinator's job to kind of bring them all together.
Yeah. All right. So let's take that wheel and the spokes and things like that a little deeper. Could you sort of walk us through what a typical clinical trial might look like and the processes that a research coordinator would carry out?
Yeah, absolutely. So, prior to any patient involvement that ever comes into place, there's years of work that is done. And this might start with scientific literature reviews and preclinical science that happens in that lab to really build up the research question. And understanding what the knowledge gap is at that particular time. So once we get to that point, there's a trial design that occurs, and there's submissions into a number of different ethics boards or the institutional review board or the FDA, different areas that really are reviewing this from a patient safety standpoint. So lots of different minds that contribute towards this, certainly from that scientific result standpoint, but more so from ethical and patient safety considerations. So once we get all of those, that like 2-3 years of work, maybe even more in just getting to being able to step into the patient bedside and start working with the patient, that's where the coordinator might step in and say, and where other people at Michigan Medicine might actually visually see the coordinator doing their work. And they'll come in, they'll talk with patients, and go through what's called an informed consent process to say, hey, here's what we know, here's what we don't know, and we'd like to learn something out of this. So would you be willing to participate? And when families or patients choose to participate, they're then put onto a protocol, so a predetermined treatment plan in many cases to say, here's what we're going to do to answer this question going forward and to implement that protocol. This could be one day, this could be years of treatment for participants. So it really can vary quite a bit depending on the nuances of different units. And then we of course want to take that information from what's gained in implementing that protocol and share it, because it's important for us to publish results. We have a really a requirement and a necessity to share these results with others so that our peer institutions and anyone else can then build off of that knowledge and advance medicine even further.
Yeah, it's a way to make an impact outside of just the four walls of Michigan Medicine, right?
Yeah, that's right. And it's great to be able to partner with others. It takes large numbers. So you can imagine that, we see, 1 or 2 patients with this particular thing going on here in Ann Arbor. And, but statistically, we need to have, 30 or 40 of those patients. So we need to partner with different institutions across the country to really find those answers.
Yeah, that makes sense. So your team, I know, has been working on a career ladder for these research coordinators. Why is that so important?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that this is a fairly new career path, and it's become one that's very valuable and important going forward. So, the regulations and rules around human subjects clinical research have changed and become more complex and challenging in the last 10 or 15 years. And we've started to see even academic institutions have specific master's programs for clinical research professionals to enter into the field. So it's sort of natural to think that now we need that professional career path for coordinators here at the University of Michigan. We're one of the first institutions to really push this forward for our workforce. There's been a couple before us that we've built off of what they've done and learned from them, but we're one of the first to invest into this workforce and this staff. And the career path is necessary so we can recruit and retain clinical research coordinators, talented clinical research coordinators here at University of Michigan. And of course, we want that to improve what we're doing from a clinical research standpoint, that it passes on to our patients and the community that we serve through quality measures and the work that we're advancing.
So in terms of that career ladder, what has been done so far? What is still to come? So, in short, where are we in this process?
Yeah, we formed a leadership committee about 4 years ago and started to draft up the new job descriptions, the path, and what was necessary for this particular staff to have the career ladder. And we worked with our HR partners, different executive leadership, different groups, other peer institutions. We reached out to professional organizations. Taubman Health Science Library helped with developing this plan as well. And we kind of brought all of that together and finally came up with this final product, if you will, of what we have for the career ladder. And excitingly was able to present and share some of this over this past winter around December, January timeframe. This first messaging went out to faculty, investigators, and clinical research coordinators here at the University of Michigan to say, hey, this is happening. And we began with title placement. So over the last 6 weeks, we spoke to all 600 identified clinical research coordinators here at Michigan Medicine, and went through a questionnaire, asking about what their critical responsibilities are. And we worked to go through the process of remapping them onto titles on this new career ladder. So we're going from 4 typically used titles to 7 titles under this new career ladder. And that process went well. We're now moving on to setting the new market salaries, which we're excited about. That data hasn't been shared publicly yet, but I can say that we're making sure that these are fair market and really market leading salaries for these staff members, that as a true investment from Michigan Medicine into this critical work group. And all of this should be in place and wrapped up, new titles, new salary settings before July 1st of this year. And then we move forward with utilizing and implementing this career ladder.
Yeah, that's exciting. So let's look ahead real quick. Now that the career ladder is at least in motion and will be fully in place in just a few months, how do you think that will impact the work experience here at Michigan Medicine?
Yeah, I'm very excited about this because as we grow and invest into this particular group of staff, it's such a critical need for us to advance medicine here and be a leader at the University of Michigan. So we've done well so far, but we can do much better. And I think that the goal here is always to, regardless of what patient or what area that we're looking at the outcomes and what is the best possible outcome for this patient. And the goal here is to advance that. Even if it's ever so slightly, we want to make it just a little bit better. We want to make it a lot better, but we'll take just moving it a little bit better through quality and ethical research here at U of M. So an investment in this group, we want to fall nothing short of having the best clinical research coordinator workforce amongst all of our peer institutions. And we want to attract that staff because a great idea is really not much if we can't implement it correctly and safely. So this is really important. It's huge for us. It's huge for the institution. It's big for our patients and our community. And we hope to be able to, open up access to other treatments and really move things forward here.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to see where things go. So thank you so much, Nick, for giving us this information. Unfortunately, I think we sometimes overlook the important research, that's being carried out here every day, especially the research at the bedside. So I'm so glad we had a chance to catch up with you and discuss the role that these clinical research coordinators are playing.
Yeah, thanks so much for this opportunity.
Yeah. Now, before you say goodbye, you still have 4 more questions left to answer as part of the lightning round, where we ask 4 quick fire questions to our guests, and you have not seen these questions before. Are you ready to go?
I think so.
All right. Now, if you weren't working in clinical trials, what would be your dream job?
Oh, man. I think this one's going to sound funny, but I always have told my wife, I think I'd be a good truck driver. I like road trips and could just, zone in on the highway for long shifts. So I think I'd be fine at that.
Yeah, I love road trips too. What's the longest road trip you've ever taken?
I drove out to LA.
Nice.
Yeah, I had to move a friend out to LA. So drove across the whole country. It was really a beautiful, fun time. We camped out a few spots out west and had a great time doing it.
That's amazing. I did San Diego to Chicago once. That was the longest one I've done. And that was pretty incredible.
Wow.
All right. So earlier this week in headlines, the newsletter highlighted some springtime activities. What is your favorite thing to do outside of work this time of year?
Oh, man. I've got a lab dog at home. He's my best friend. So love that the weather's kind of broken a little bit. We can get outside, play ball, get a little muddy. And it's just nice to just get back outside and enjoy it, even if it is a little wet right now.
Absolutely. A couple of weeks ago were the much talked about Academy Awards, not necessarily for movies, but are you a big movie buff? And if so, what's your favorite?
Oh, I do love a lot of different genres of movie. What is my favorite movie? Um, I don't, I think I'd have to say historically, I like the funny ones. So I might go with Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Nice.
It's just it's a great one. It really always puts me in a good mood. It's funny. Although it does bother me, the St. Patrick's Day parade, it's kind of cold out, right? On St. Patrick's
Right,
Day in
absolutely. It's
Chicago.
mid-March, yeah.
So how are they hanging out in the pool after that? I don't know, but
Fair question.
but it is a great movie
Yeah.
either way.
All right, we're going to stick with the awards theme for the last one. Of course, last week we had the Grammy Awards. What's the first concert you remember attending?
My first I know this and it's kind of embarrassing, but I went to an All for One concert. And if you guys don't, you probably would remember the song "I Swear" from the radio.
Yes.
So that might tell you, when and where this was. But yeah, that was my first concert, All for One.
That song's now going to be in my head the rest of the day. So thank you for that. Thank you so much, Nick, for being a good sport, for joining us today and talking about your important work. If you want to learn even more about clinical research coordinators at Michigan Medicine, go to mmheadlines.org. That's mmheadlines.org. And while you're there, you could check out other featured stories from this past week. And this was one of our favorite weeks because the newsletter highlighted all of the discounts and perks you can receive just by showing your M card at certain businesses. From hotels in Florida to appliances in your house, you can save a bunch just by working at Michigan Medicine. So be sure to check out that story and much more at mmheadlines.org. All right, it's time for the weekly trivia contest. Last week, we asked listeners, when was the first liver transplant performed at Michigan Medicine? The answer is 1985. Congratulations to Nanive Concert, who sent in the correct answer. Now for this week's question. What are the name of the two blogs that share insight and tips from Michigan Medicine experts? Once again, what are the name of the two blogs that share insight and tips from Michigan Medicine experts? You could find the answer in this week's featured headline stories, and once you know it, send it to headlines@med.umich.edu for the chance to win a prize. That's all the time we have for this week. Thank you so much, Nick, for joining us today, and thank you, as always, to all of our listeners and viewers for everything you do for patients, families, and each other. We'll see you next week.